I was invited to Fairhope to do a container class for a bunch of Greek ladies, and it's all Greek to me in Fairhope, so let's get started. So thank you guys so much for inviting me here. As Cassandra and Father mentioned, I'm Catherine Arensberg. I consider myself to be an exterior designer in Mobile, and I'm excited to be in Fairhope because I don't get to come over much and do demonstrations. A lot of my stuff's in Mobile. But I consider myself to be an exterior designer because I do a lot more than just landscape, which most people would call me a landscape designer. I have a degree in landscape architecture from LSU, graduated in '06. Don't care a thing about football, so y'all don't judge me on that. I went for my degree and then came back and started working for somebody in Mobile, started having babies, 4 babies, bam, 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 right in a row. They're aged 11 down to 5. And once I did that, I figured the job that I was doing was something I could do from home. And so I took clients and worked out of my home and drew plans and all that stuff. So you'll see Nate is filming. He is my very first employee. He's my content producer. And so he produces videos and we post them all the time. So as Cassandra mentioned, you'll see my face on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see my face every day because I post multiple times a day. Whether or not you like it, you'll see my face. So I guess I get, but they asked me to come in and do a fall display, which I'm gonna get to, but a lot of what I do, as Cassandra mentioned, has a lot to do with my background. My mom just left to go pick up a couple more plants because I think I left them in the truck, but she is from Indiana. And so I'm not a typical Southern belle. I was raised by a woman from the Midwest, and so I'm very practical, and I like everything to be very straight to the point, and I don't like beat around the bush very much. And so that has really formed how I do things. I'm also one of 6 children, and so we were always really thrifty and frugal, and that also really plays into my business quite a bit. Allie was actually on my show, and she knows that we were bargain hunting for the stuff that was going into her yard and doing all kinds of things. So, thank you. Yeah, it was a very good episode. Craig and her did an awesome job. And we're awesome on camera, which does not always happen. Doesn't always happen. And so the reason I'm mentioning all that is because I wanted to mention that container gardening is something that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. You can really plant in anything. A lot of people think that containers have to have the drain holes in the bottom of them in order to plant in, and that's not true, and I'll show you how you can do that differently. I actually went to Goodwill today and found a couple of really cute planters. This one would be good for succulents, which we're not going to do today, but you can see that it's really shallow, and you can put rocks in the bottom and then your soil on top and plant the little succulents, and it's really decorative and cute. So that's one option. And then I found 2 bowls for $5.45, and you can use these also. They don't have drain holes in them. But just the idea that you can use almost anything as a container. If it's pretty on the outside and it goes with your home decor, then you can use it to plant in. And so these other ones here, I'll show you this. This one actually picked up from Home Depot, paid retail, which kills me, but I did. And in order to make this into something that you can use, if you're not going to use gravel in the bottom to plant on top of for your plants, then what you can do is to make what you guys have probably heard of, a self-watering planter. Who's heard of a self-watering planter before? Raise your hand if you think that it actually waters itself. No? Allie, Wes.
Does it have a little drip drip?
No. So a self-watering planter does not actually water itself. The reason they call it a self-watering planter is that you put water into it and it has a reservoir on the bottom which holds water, and it gives you a little more time before you have to water it again, but it does not run over to the spigot and water itself. So you can see this one here has you can see the little divider here. Yes?
I watched some of those a month ago.
Uh-huh.
And it's like all the water immediately goes to that reservoir.
Right.
And I wonder, is it really getting better with my plants? They look really dry. And so my kids feel like, look at my plants, they need more water, and then I'm having more water.
Well, in this case, if you get too much water, it just flows out, and so it's not going to hold it. But I'll show you the way that I would approach it. Even if you buy something like this, they really need something that's going to suck the water up if the roots have not yet grown down to the level where they can reach into that water. Because if the roots are still shallow, you just planted it, they're not long enough to reach down into the bottom of the pot yet. And so the way that you would do that in both cases is to basically use a wick, the way you would for a candle. This is a rope I bought today at Home Depot and just cut a little length off of, but you can put this down into that planter. So for example, this is a regular clay terracotta planter, and I bought a saucer for it that it sits, kind of hovers above where the water would be. It doesn't sit flat against the bottom that you guys would normally see for a saucer. So what you can do to get this to wick the water up is to put this through, take the sticker off, through the hole and pull it out the bottom, and then just like curl it a little bit, put it in here like that, and then it'll actually wick up the water into your plant. Yeah, this is a cotton one. It actually has some nylon in the center of it, but it's cotton on the outside. So yeah, that's how you can make even a planter with a hole in the bottom. You can make this into a self-watering planter, but it still doesn't really water itself. This is a small container, and remember that whatever your container is, this is the home. This is your plant's world. So this really cannot hold a very large plant, and it dries out really quickly. If your pot is unglazed like this is, it allows air to escape. It can evaporate out. A glazed pot will hold water for longer. So all those kind of play into the kind of container that you'll choose, judging by what kind of plant you're going to put in it and how much water it needs. If it's a succulent, you can get away with something like this because it doesn't require as much water. And then, okay, so for this, back to this. This is the container that doesn't have the hole in it. What I did is to take a plastic tray that you would normally put underneath, a pot like this. It's a saucer. They sell plastic ones at the big box stores or any garden center. And you just take it and flip it over, drill holes in it, put one in the middle where you can put that wick right through, and then you can place that in the bottom of this container, and you can see that it leaves space for the water to sit, and then your wick is going to pull that water up into your plant. So, yeah. I'm sorry, what'd you say? The notch is holding it so it doesn't drop down into the...
No, but it's going to wick the water pump.
Yes.
So that small knot is nothing more.
Well, and the roots will be sitting there and reach the root. It's really, a lot of this is so that, especially for a plant that, a container that doesn't have a hole in it, it's so that the plant isn't sitting in water either. Because you got both problems. You want it to get water, but you don't want it to sit in water the whole time. So that is that. I went with, so I know a lot of people think mums in fall, but I have a personal distaste for mums, as Cassandra probably knows. The garden centers are full of them, but you will buy them and I will give it 14 days and they will be in your trash pile because they die every time. And the reason why they die is that they're extremely finicky plants. They're beautiful. You walk in the garden center, you're like, it's fall, it's so beautiful outside, and they're all popping, and so you buy them like with your emotions, but not with your actual head, because they're gonna die. But what I'd like to do is to show you guys a container arrangement that can live in pretty low light situation, which is if you're on the interior of a home, you do need a low light container garden. With the addition of the coleus, that if you want to, you can pop that out and put something in the spring that will give you that spring color that you're looking for. So what you want to make sure when you're doing a container is that you're buying plants that all have the same light requirements. Because if you put a bunch of stuff in here and some of it's full sun and some of it's shade, you can't put it in one, like you have to make sure that this is its home at all times. This is its flower bed. And so that really narrows down what you can choose to put into that container that will work in the light that's inside your house. So you can see that everything's pretty green here, and some shades of purple basically. So a couple tricks too. When I go to plant, I like to look all over in the garden center. I like to go outside, inside. This came from the interior section. This is it's called a fig, so I guess it's a fig vine. They also have ivies as well. But what I like about this one is the scale of the leaf is very small, and I think that's important when you're considering a container. If it's a small container, everything should kind of be small scale. This one actually has a drainage hole in it. But just because it comes in a hanging bucket doesn't mean it has to hang. It can definitely be planted on a tabletop planter. It's trying to attach to me. And you see this one actually has a little reservoir on the bottom of it too. And most of these plants, especially this, oh Lord, I'm making a mess. This type of plant can be split. So what you would do is just put your fingers right here in the center and then just peel apart, kind of like peeling an orange, and just pull it apart. So once you pull it apart, you know, instead of having this big thing that you plop in the middle, now you've got this thing open. Yes, this is low light. Everything in this container, this is called ruffle fig. I believe it's related to fig. Oh, you can. So that's right, the olives and the figs, I forget. So what I wanted to do with this one, instead of plopping it right in the middle because it was round, I broke it apart, opened it up, and then pushed it to one side so that it can be in the front. Because I'm imagining that this won't be sitting on an island. I'm imagining that it'll be in a corner or up against a wall to where it is a round container, but you want to build the height in the back and down toward the front so that you are imagining you're seeing it all at one time. So we've broken that apart and put it there. Where'd my soil go? It's the soil. I have a big bag of soil somewhere. Oh, I'm so sorry. It was sitting next to your food. I'm gonna add some soil to the bottom. Make a bigger mess. And this is just regular garden soil or container soil. Thank you. Succulents, if you guys are into succulents, that's a whole different kind of soil. Do not use garden potting soil for your succulents.
What do you use for that?
Succulent soil.
No, you're fine.
So the way that this is made, the way that this soil is made is with peat moss. And if you know a lot about peat moss, it holds on to moisture. And it's made to hold moisture, again, to aid in not having to water as often. So succulents want basically like the junkiest soil that you can come up with. So they sell succulent soil, but I actually have done a video on how to make your own succulent soil. And it's like the junkiest topsoil at the garden center with Pedialyte. I always say Pedialyte, perlite. I have 4 kids, Pedialyte. It's perlite, which is the white little granular stuff that makes it a very loose soil, and then sand. I mean, it really just needs like, what? Girl. Precious. My precious angel back there. All right, so.
What's it called?
Perlite. You're gonna make me say Pedialyte again. So then I'm gonna add this little spiky guy. This is a monkey grass. And again, I just wanna add that height at the back. Of course, now I need to dig down some.
Does that have drainage?
This one does have drainage.
Because I thought all the plants also
With drainage or without drainage? So you just have to make sure that when you put your finger down into the soil, it's dry before you water it. You definitely don't want to water it unless it needs it. All right, so we got our height a little bit in the back, and then, so this is so different than floral arrangement, which is, you know, the cut flowers, because I want for you guys to be able to enjoy it for longer. But also, you really realistically can't get as many colors involved as you probably would like. Sorry? Encoleus is so easy. Like I said, I'm all about simplicity and the ease of it all. We're not gonna get you anything too complicated.
I buy 4 plants and then
Multiply, And really this one is also about the different textures of the leaves too. You've got strappy, you've got curly, you've got the color here. It's just all the different various colors and textures come together really nicely. I sent you all the way out there for that thing and now you don't need it. Thank you, Mama. Maybe I'll put this one over here. Nope, I don't like that. Maybe I'll do this over here. Can you tell I haven't practiced this before? I know, but I'm trying to figure out if I want it there. Because now I am making it around. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I haven't used this one yet, so I'll do this.
When the light situation gets low, they start to bolt. They'll start rising up. You pinch the tops out, so they'll bring them up. They'll stay small.
Anyway, so you get the idea.
Catherine, you just broke apart the plant, you just for aesthetic purposes, right?
No. No. So if this is a small plant, but if you're ever planting any kind of plant, a shrub, anything else, there's something called scarifying the roots. And that means that instead of just pulling them right out and planting them, you scratch the roots and disturb them a little bit because that encourages new growth. And so, and if you pull those plants out of the ground 5 years later, the roots will still be wrapped around as if they were still in a pot. Because once they start in that direction, unless they're disturbed, they'll continue in that direction. So, girdling is trees. I guess it could be, yeah, shrubs too. All right, so that's it. And you can turn it any direction you want, and it really probably needs some extra soil tucked in, a little bit of mulch or some sort of moss to finalize it. But super simple.
So any like leafy plant, when you pull apart, like you can have pretty much anything, are there any like you don't ever want to do?
Okay, so let me show you on this one. You can see that there's one stem here.
Right.
Don't pull that apart. But generally the way that nurseries plant these things, they'll put 3 or 4 in here because maybe 1 or 2 won't survive. And so, so they'll come to you with multiple. You kind of get more bang for your buck. But especially with these hanging baskets that have this type of thing in them, those can definitely be broken up. I mean, there's a million little shoots in there and they can be broken up. Same thing for monkey grass. I mean, you know, this stuff is just crazy. The cabbage cannot be. But this one actually may be able to. This one that's leafy. No, it doesn't look like it can be. But you just have to look at that stem and see what you, yeah. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?